So Netflix's Avatar is finally out and the reactions to it are very mixed, and I think that's a very fair reaction. This show is a mixed bag. If Mixed Feelings was a TV show, it would be Netflix's Avatar. I've seen people love and hate the same elements of this show for different reasons. I've seen people hate Iroh because he seemed too strict. I've seen people love Iroh because he was very similar to the Iroh in the cartoon. I've seen people love the effect and some hate the effects. And this show is a mixed bag in the truest sense of the word. And that's the same way even I felt about this. Some aspects of this show was amazing, outstanding, even might be the best Netflix have ever done. And that aspect for me is the effects. This Avatar Netflix show has the best effects I've seen in a Netflix TV series, and that's because I've seen other Netflix big budget shows such as The Witcher, Cowboy Bebop, and One Piece. Two of them were cartoon adaptations and another one is a book adaptation. And in Witcher has a lot of fantastical creatures and the same as Avatars, and if you compare them, Avatar knocks it out of the park. The creatures, the locations in Avatar looks amazing, and I've seen people criticize it saying it looks too green screeny, but only in a couple of scenes. The majority of the time the effects look absolutely gorgeous. They knocked it out of the park, and I thought that was going to be the major thing that was going to hold this show back, and it turns out that is the most good thing about the show in my opinion. And now let's talk about the negative feelings I have toward this show, and that is because of the writing. I did not like how they handled the writing of this show. The script, I did not like it. There was a lot of exposition. Episode 1 was egregious in that regard, and there's a lot of exposition dump. Characters just talking about how they feel, characters explaining unnecessary things that were not mentioned even in the first season of the cartoon. They took out information from the Avatar novels and season 2 and 3 of the cartoon and crammed it into this first live action season. I found that very unnecessary. Them bringing characters that were not supposed to be in season 1, such as Ozai and Azula, and what they did with their characters, I was not a fan of. They sort of changed Ozai's character. He was supposed to be this, this final boss character who we don't know much of, and he appears like in season 3 when Zuko returns, and there was this whole mystery behind him, and even they took out the mystery of this show. And not just with Ozai, but when the show begins with the Air Nomad genocide, the fact that they started it with that, showing us a lot of things, it kills that sense of mystery that makes you want to watch more, that makes you want to know more about this world. And when it just gets revealed, then there's nothing to latch on, and that's how it made me feel when they exposed a lot of things that were not supposed to be exposed in this first season. And I find that to be disappointing because the show could have been a top tier show, a show that could have replaced Stranger Things had they done the writing aspect of this TV show well, because they got the effects right. The only missing ingredient was the writing, and they messed that up, and it was something that they could have easily done right had they just stuck to the source material. And I hear some people saying that then there would have been no point if they followed the source material. We already have the cartoon for that, and if they don't make changes then it's pointless. And for that I have to say, change for the sake of change is not good, especially if you're adapting a masterpiece such as Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you deviate slightly unnecessarily from the source material, the chances that you would create something as good as something that is a 10 out of 10 is very low. The chances that you would fail is very high, and they make so many unnecessary changes changes, and surprise, surprise, they fail. And these changes are changes such as minimizing the role of Roku. When Aang meets Roku in the cartoon, it was because he wanted to know what role the avatar should play. He was supposed to meet him and he didn't, so it was very important for him that he met Roku. And there was also this unanswered question regarding Roku, because he was the last avatar. He disappeared and we didn't know why he disappeared, and there was a lot of unanswered questions in the cartoon that made us want to know more. That feeling of wanting to know more made us watch the next episode suspensefully, and them exposing a lot of things and making unnecessary changes just messed up what made this show great. And another unnecessary change, Kitara, they dumbed her character down. She's less expressive in this show. The writing was not good, and it made a TV show that could have been great into something that is just mediocre. And I'm not saying this show is bad. If I'm going to give it a score, I would give it a 5 to 6 out of 10. It's not the worst thing ever made. It's not the 2010 film. It's clearly better than that. I've seen some people say that it's worse than the 2010 film, and people who say that are not right, and they're just probably trolling. But writing wise, this show was disappointing for me, and it was something they could have not messed up had they just followed the source material and only made necessary changes that are necessary to make a live action, and minimized the unnecessary changes. I know changes were necessary because you can't adapt a fast-paced 20-episode cartoon into a 8-episode season 1 of a Netflix show. I know this season 1 of Netflix has a longer runtime, but the cartoon is so fast-paced you can't replicate that in the live action, and that is a necessary change. I understand when they make necessary changes. That's why they had to mix in a lot of arcs in an episode, such as the Jet and the Yomash arc. I understand those kind of changes, but unnecessary changes such as changing Sokka's sexism and making the face stealer some kind of villain of the week type of character, those type of changes, it was a necessary change, and I'm not a fan of that sort of change. And this show, I thought they were gonna get right. I thought this show was gonna be really good, but I'm not gonna lie, it was disappointing for me. But I think they can redeem themselves if they get a season 2, because that seems like something that is gonna happen, because it's the #1 show on Netflix and it's the #1 show in a bunch of countries. So I think it's inevitable that it will get a season 2, and I hope they get it right in the season 2. I hope they learn from their mistake and get it right in the second season. That's all I have to say for today. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and with that said, see you in the next one.